Hello, everyone. This is Waverly Hanson, and I'm coming to you from beautiful Castle Rock, Colorado again to share some tips to be helpful for your marriage, both to enhance it or to save it. Hopefully, you're not at the point that you are about ready to get a divorce, but you're just wanting your marriage to go better than it does right now. One of the concepts that I've learned by my own side experience, but also by working with many other people, that much of the time we are just so busy in our lives that we're not taking the time we need to do what I call recharging your battery. If you could think of it like recharging your battery, then sometimes you're able to give yourself permission more easily to take the time that you need. And I call it like recharge time. I call it downtime. It's renewing yourself. And so many times we do not emphasize the importance of this. We just go on like we're machines or something. And of course, in anything in life requires nurturing and taking care. I don't know if you have any plants in your house, but if you do, you've noticed that when you neglect them, they don't live very long. And actually, that same thing happens to our relationships and to ourselves if we're not necessarily dying, but we're tired and stressed and overwhelmed all the time, unless we really start noticing that our body and our spirit need time to rest and relax. Unless you've made deliberately some choices, you probably are feeling pretty overwhelmed and pretty tired much of the time. So, and then I want to mention if you have children or you're in a high pressure job, it's pretty normal that you feel like you've got about all you can do to get yourself and maybe your family out the door and do a good job at work and then come home at night and take care of all the needs again of that are just normal things. It just seems there's not enough time or energy to go around. I'm very familiar with that situation and deal with families with it all the time. And of course, I used to deal with it myself. What can we do about this? That's what I'd like to brainstorm with you about tonight. I'm not sure if you have found a way that works well for you. And if you have, I hope that you'll be sending an email and so we can share it with other people that are struggling as well. When you're on all the time with your multiple hats that you wear throughout the day, it's absolutely vital that you are aware that you need to renew yourself at times. And some people kind of get the idea that they can't renew themselves without going on a vacation or going out of town for the weekend. And they just kind of have the idea they can only relax when they get away from home. And sure, those things are nice, but that's not really true that you can't relax at home. Sometimes when people leave home, they kind of feel like they're getting off the treadmill of life, going to work and doing all the things that have to be done around the house. But in reality, we can do some time out at home. Your children also need that kind of time. They often feel the stress of their schoolwork and their social life. When you're watching an enjoyable program, maybe reading, looking at someone else's life, maybe even taking a nap, being on the computer, playing video games. Some of these things can be refreshing if they're not overdone. But too much of the time, we just kind of get into whichever is our favorite activity, and we do not leave feeling refreshed or recharged. Sometimes it's an effort to try to do these things, but once you do them, you'll feel just as tired or bored as you did before you started. When I refer to recharging your battery, I am talking about you, your spouse, your children, if you have them, choosing time to renew yourselves and just really getting in touch with one another. Some families decide that at the dinner table, maybe not every night, but maybe 3 times a week or so, that they're going to go around the table and talk about the best thing that happened today. And what that can do is help us to practice gratefulness, just thankfulness of the good things that are happening in our lives. And also to take the time to tell one another in the family some of the things that we appreciate about each other. It's so easy to be negative and critical, and sometimes we feel it takes too much effort to think about complimenting each other. But the fact is, it does make life a lot more pleasant and helps us to feel connected to each other. I notice almost every time when couples come to me for their marriage problems, and we talk about, when was the last time that you had fun together? Unfortunately, 99% of the couples that I see will say, look at each other, and sometimes it's been years. Fortunately, some younger couples sometimes recognize more quickly that they need help outside their family, and it's been maybe 6 months or a year. Maybe it's been since that first baby was born, and they haven't established a trustable babysitter yet, so they just aren't going anywhere and nurturing their relationship as a couple. So of course, that is really, really important, that not only do you take care of yourself, but you take care of your relationship. Like that plant I mentioned, gets neglected, it just doesn't do well. And that's what happens in our relationships. They don't do well if we neglect them. I wanted to mention that also, if you are out of the habit of expressing gratefulness for everything, sometimes your job can be a drag and you're like, oh, I hate to go to work again. But you know, if you've been out of work, I bet that first few weeks back, you are just thankful that you have a paycheck. And so sometimes, just even in a few minutes time, as we think about that, you know, oh, I'm really thankful I've got a paycheck. You can change your attitude for that day to just practice that instead of, oh, I got to go to work again. So much of our emotional response and how our bodies feel has to do with how we're looking at life and how we're looking at things. Maybe this week you could try getting out of your usual ruts and maybe doing something simple like taking a different way to work, just to keep yourself from getting bored. And also, I want to mention to you that sometimes marriage problems, what we think of as marriage problems, are not necessarily marriage problems, but just problems that we're having in our own life. And we just are not doing so well personally, and that it does affect our marriage and our relationship. I'm assuming that your spouse and your family are very important to you. I would like you to think about, as stressed out and stretched as we are sometimes, what would happen if your loved one or you got a diagnosis today of a serious illness? I'm thinking that most of the things that we get all stressed about wouldn't seem very important at all. It probably wouldn't even matter. So sometimes we just need to get our perspective and do appreciate what we have and take care of ourselves and be okay with taking a nap or whatever you need to do to take care of yourself so that you have some energy left for living. Thanks for listening tonight, and I am very happy that you took the time to come, and I hope that you'll enjoy the next video that'll be coming out in a few days. Thank you. Good night.